Okay, it is 1:03 p.m. and I think at this point I'm ready to just go over the one trade I had. And as for OTCs, there have not really been any decent setups. ABML has been downtrending, and maybe I could have considered it on some kind of a dip, but I haven't really been looking at it too much. I was watching it in the morning. I thought, okay, it's right here. Maybe this can be a continuation off of the Green Day that it had previously yesterday, and it did do a dip under VWAP, and then it did try to trade off of this level above VWAP, and then the goal would have been for it to have broken the day high. It didn't do that. Instead, it broke under VWAP, and at that point, I lost interest with it. MMTLP was interesting. I was looking and seeing if this thing was able to break 135, but it wasn't able to because there was a big seller at the ask, and it was also another big seller above it. And that seller is this one right here. He basically pushed the stock to downtrend all the way, so it never really did that breakout, which I thought would have been pretty interesting if it were to have broken the 135 level right here. As you can see, the next level of resistance would have been the 140s, and it just didn't do it again because there were just too many big sellers at the ask. CYDY was a bit interesting, very similar to this one, at least on the daily chart. And I was looking at it too, and it was interesting because it did break out of this 38-ish level, right? And then made a move to the 44s, and it was messing with that gap. It was filling it. And at some point, I could have considered a dip under VWAP, but I didn't like it too much because I think this one also had a lot of sellers at the ask, but that was about it. There isn't really anything else with it. And excuse me, I did trade this one. This one is pretty frustrating. I'm gonna be down on the day, just $3 if I don't trade anything else. But this was a listed stock, BRQS, and this one was interesting because it looked like it was trying to play off of this breakout over, I would say 39, if not 38 for sure. Yeah, I think I have here in my notes 38s. And the idea would have been that maybe it can continue to do the breakout and uptrend over a longer period of time. And when it first opened, it was downtrending. It wasn't looking good. There was a lot of selling price action, but I was interested in it because it looks like it was going to make an inverse head and shoulders. And I thought, this is the shoulder, this is the head. And actually, let me zoom in a bit more. Here's the shoulder, here's the head. And I thought this little baby move right here was the shoulder. I was interested in it, but it had like a quick move from the 38 level to the 38.5 level. And it looked like it was trying really hard to break past VWAP, and I did consider the trade for that reason. I think what I could have done maybe is actually wait for it to break the level and maybe not being at the best price right before the breakout, but at least there is a bit of a confirmation that it actually breaks the level and it starts to uptrend. But I did take a buy at 957, and that was at 383. So 957 was right here at 383. So I got in right here, and it immediately wasn't working, and I thought, all right, well, that sucks. If it breaks under this level at the time, which was this 37.6 level, I would be interested in cutting the trade. And I would think that, it's not going to break out at that point if it were to get that low. And as you can see, I got pretty destroyed on this wick right here. And this is not an OTC. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but this is a listed stock. And this is part of why I don't like listed stocks so much, because they can make very exaggerated candles, big candles, huge red candles, and it just is not really ideal. And I did cut it at 959 at 3738. So yeah, that was at 959 right here, 3738. So right around was right here when I cut it, right when it broke under this level, and it did get a little lower. And what it ended up doing was actually the inverse head and shoulders. I thought this was going to be the shoulder, but actually this is the shoulder. Here's the head, here's the shoulder, and they had this exaggerated wick, so I won't really consider it. But it did downtrend, and then it made that shoulder, right? And it made a really excessive green candle spike, and that one really pissed me off because sure it didn't work out here, but this was a little too much, and then it just shoots up in the air, and I figured, if it's going to be the type of stock that does something like this, I'm not going to trade it anymore. And what I should have done with this type of stock, something I haven't done in a while, is that if I'm looking at a listed stock, I should probably see if it has a pattern of offering wicks. As you can see, it had a wick here, another one here, and another one here, and how it reacts. And you can tell that this stock is very commonly known to have an excessive wick, as you can see, and then it just comes back. Here's a wick and it comes back. Here's a wick and it comes back. It doesn't have like a big crazy red candle and it keeps downtrending. It actually comes back. So maybe if it were to have done this wick right here, I could have been patient with it, even though it's not ideal, obviously, right? But it did eventually come back, and maybe I could have sold better with that in mind that maybe, okay, it just had a wick. It broke my risk level, but I'm going to play off with a chance that it's more than likely going to come back because it's done it consistently. And then when it comes back, I can sell for a better price. And even though it worked out immediately right afterwards, I think that would have been a better way to trade it. And I probably could have been more patient on the confirmation of it breaking out because there were like a wall of people at the ask, even though it was a lot of green prints going through. It was very consistent, and maybe I had a bit of FOMO there too. So yeah, that was the case. And this one obviously continued the uptrend over a longer period of time. But I didn't want to mess with it anymore because of how ugly this one trades and how, crappy it was. But it's very nice that it did eventually do an inverse head and shoulders, not when I thought it was. And, right after a wick, it goes the other way. So pretty bipolar, but very interesting. It did do a continuation. Yeah, it feels pretty bad, but at least I tried. And that was according to my $5 risk level with listed stocks. So that was fine for what that was. And I think I'll try to stay away from listed stocks, especially this week, because I am trying to trade OTCs with a larger $15 risk level, and I don't want like a random, listed stock trade, which I consider myself to not have that much experience with, throw me off. So yeah, that's really about it. I haven't really been looking at anything else. Maybe CYD, I could try to go to VWeb, but it's not really that much of an ideal setup, because it was only up one day. But it could try to do something, and ABML maybe can try to reverse, especially because it's playing after that $1.07 level I've mentioned before. But yeah, I'll make an update later. If not, at the market close, I think a lot of good lessons with this one. And yeah, if in the future I'm interested in a list of stock, I need to just take a quick look and just check what it is in terms of wicks, if it is known to do stuff like that. So then it could help me potentially trade this better or trade it more cautiously. Okay, it is 11:05 p.m. and I am here to call it off. Overall, I am down exactly $2.70 on the day, and that was just one trade with BRQS, a stock I did not want to touch anymore after I had that freaky little wick. I think it was this move right here. Yeah, it was around this time period that I traded it, and even though it did continue the uptrend, it was pretty cool and all. I didn't want to trade it anymore, and yeah, it sucks to be the guy who lost money on the stock that uptrended really nicely for most of the day, but at least I learned from it. The thing with considering stocks that have wicks, and I'll probably try to stay away from listed stocks. And even though I am down on the day, and it was just a tiny trade here with BRQS, I mean, I'm still doing a lot better than what I thought I could have been. In that, being the first week that I'm trading a $15 risk level with OTCs, I was expecting by now a black swan event and lose like, I don't know, $200. So I guess that's totally fine. And I just have to keep going. There wasn't really any clean setups with the OTCs. Maybe ABML can try to reverse at some point. But yeah, that's about it. Just a good lesson there with BRQS. I'm thankful for God for the lessons, and God willing, let's see if I can actually get a nice profitable trade on the OTC setup before the end of this week. We'll see.